Hi, today I am reading Surprises According to Humphrey by Betty G. Birney, and I'm reading Chapter 9 entitled No Surprises. Well, well, if it isn't Humphrey! That's what Miss Victoria, the bus driver, said when she picked Garth and me up at the bus stop on Monday morning. The best behaved student on the bus. That was nice to hear. Things went so well between Garth and AJ over the weekend that they sat next to each other and acted like best friends again. As the bus approached Longfellow School, my whiskers began twitching and my fur began itching. Would Og still be there when I got back? Or had he been whisked away to the faraway planet of Sperling? I'm happy to say he was there. Nothing at all had changed in room 26, thank goodness. Greetings, green and faithful friend, I greeted Og. Boing, boing was his response. Mrs. Brisbane walked over to the table by the window where Og and I live. Are you guys glad to see each other? She asked. Humphrey, I was afraid Og would miss you over the weekend, so I took him home with me. Phew, she saved him from an alien kidnapping, and she didn't even know it. Lucky frog, I said. The Brisbanes don't have a cat. I told him the whole story about Sweetums. So there we were, back on the shelf by the window, and everything looked completely normal in room 26. But the events of the past week made me realize how quickly things can change. Fire alarms can jingle-jangle, best friends can become foes, and things from outer space can invade. During the morning recess, Principal Morales stuck his head in the door and said, "Did you bring it?" "Oh no, I forgot again," Mrs. Brisbane replied. "Okay, I don't want to bug you. Maybe tomorrow?" "I'll try," said Mrs. Brisbane, and the principal moved on. After he left, Mrs. Brisbane said something very surprising. "It was only a little white lie." She said it softly to herself, but I heard it plainly. A little white lie. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I'd never heard anything good about a lie. Even more confusing was the fact that Mrs. Brisbane would lie at all. She might be sad or even mad, but she was always honest. I couldn't puzzle over what she said for long because my friends returned from recess. For the first time in a while, Garth came in with a big smile on his face. Tabitha slapped him on the back and said, "Good game." Then AJ high-fived Garth. I guess all that practice over the weekend paid off, and I was glad. But I didn't feel so happy later in the day. Mrs. Brisbane became extremely annoyed when Heidi Hopper blurted out answers, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I was a little annoyed with her too. If Mrs. Brisbane had talked to her parents, it hadn't done any good. After lunch, our teacher announced that we were going to have a surprise guest. That got my brain spinning as fast as my wheel. Could it be a magician like the surprise guest at Richie's party? Or maybe it would be Firefighter Jeff to help us practice stop, drop, roll. I hoped it would be him. Just as I was getting excited, I realized that the guest would be someone not so nice. It could be Mrs. Wright and her really loud whistle. Or it could even be a space alien. I decided to wait in my sleeping hut. A small hamster can't be too careful. It wasn't long before the mystery was solved, and no one was more surprised than Miranda, because the surprise guest turned out to be her father. I was almost as surprised as she was. Mrs. Brisbane introduced him to the class and said, "Mr. Golden is an accountant. That means he works with numbers all day long." So he volunteered to spend the afternoon helping us with our math drills for the exams coming up. Mrs. Brisbane is perfectly fine at teaching us all about numbers and the things you can do with them, but it was interesting to see the way Mr. Golden taught. He and my friends played a cool quiz game that just happened to use all the math that would be on the test. Paul, who usually only comes into room 26 for math in the morning, joined us for the fun. Even Pay Attention Art paid attention, and so did I. I'd had a pretty exciting day, and by the time the last bell rang, I was looking forward to a quiet evening and nice long doze. Then I remembered the room cleaning. Would Aldo be back? Or would the space alien return? Would she be taking us with her? I suddenly didn't feel like dozing, not one bit. Og, you know what to do? I asked my friend later that night. It was dark outside and someone would be coming to clean the room any minute. He splashed around, which I decided meant yes. I'd used the time since school was out wisely and came up with a plan. I waited, I watched, I wiggled my whiskers. And then I heard the squeaking of the cleaning cart. Remember, I told Og, it's Aldo. It's Aldo. We yell, welcome back. If it's you-know-who, we hide and stay perfectly still. As usual, the lights were blinding when they were first switched on, but I made out the silhouette of someone too short to be Aldo. It was her. I dove down and burrowed under the bedding in my cage, completely covering myself. Things were quiet from Og's direction, so I figured he remembered his part of my scheme, which was to crouch down and hide behind a big rock. If we both stayed perfectly still, the creature might not notice us and forget all about taking us back to the mother ship. I could hear her moving chairs around, sweeping, probably dusting, emptying the 2 wastebaskets. I even heard her make that strange, otherworldly sound. Was that music or vibrating signals from the mother ship? Yo, I heard her say. Yeah, still cleaning. Then she paused. No, just a few more days. Thursday's the big day for Aldo. Talk later. I heard a click. There was more shuffling. Then the lights went out and I heard the door close. She was gone. That was good. She was moving on soon. That was good too. But if Thursday was Aldo's big day, did that mean he was moving on with her? Because that was a very, very, very bad idea. Did you hear that? I asked Og once the coast was clear. Boing. I knew that was a yes. Aldo's big day is Thursday. Does that mean she's taking him to Sperling with her that soon? Og couldn't answer that question, and neither could I. And I certainly couldn't sleep, not for the rest of the night. My friends worked hard the rest of the week. In addition to Mr. Golden, Saya's dad and Tabitha's mom all came in to help the class with math. While they multiplied and divided, I worried about Aldo and a different problem, Heidi Hopper. There hadn't been any improvement in her behavior, but every day she asked Mrs. Brisbane if she could please, please, please bring me home for the weekend. And every day Mrs. Brisbane told her she needed to see some improvement in the hand-raising situation before I could come home with her. I didn't want Heidi to be disappointed, so I worked on a plan to help her remember to raise her hand. So far, in my notebook, I'd written a plan to help Heidi. Number 1. I hadn't thought of one single thing, and I guess Mrs. Brisbane hadn't either. On Wednesday, tears welled up in Heidi's eyes when Mrs. Brisbane told her it wasn't looking so good for the weekend. I just need a sign that you're trying, the teacher said. Couldn't you raise your hand just once? Heidi nodded, but she didn't seem sure she could do it. Neither was I. Thinking about Heidi took up a lot of my time during the days, but in the evenings I only had one thing on my mind, the alien. She said Aldo's big day was Thursday. By the time she arrived to clean on Wednesday night, I'd been spinning on my wheel for 2 hours straight, trying to whirl away my memories. When she turned on the lights, I crawled under my bedding to hide. I'm quite sure Og slipped behind his rock. I heard the usual sound of sweeping and wastebasket emptying. Suddenly there was that strange humming noise. The mother ship was calling. "Hey, what's happening, Max?" the strange being said in a cheery voice. "Long time no chat." I took a big chance and poked my head out of the bedding. "Oh, you'll never guess where I am." The space alien sat in Saya's chair and pulled her hood back. Her hair wasn't in a ponytail tonight. It was long and straight. "Longfellow School." "I'm not kidding," she said. "I'm cleaning." She paused and laughed some more. "Seriously, I'm helping out my Uncle Aldo." Uncle Aldo? Aldo was an alien's uncle? "He cleans here at night and goes to school during the day." She hesitated. "Yeah, he wants to be a teacher, but he ran into problems with Spanish. So he's got this huge exam and he's freaked out about it." She explained. "He got a tutor to help him study at night. Since I'm on break, I said I'd help him out." "Og," I asked in a shaky voice, "are you getting all this?" Og dove into the water side of his tank and splashed loudly. The alien, Aldo's niece, stopped talking. She adjusted the thing that was hanging on her ear. Maybe she wasn't talking to the mothership at all. Maybe she was just talking in a phone attached to her ear. What a relief. I'm happy to help out Uncle Aldo. He's always been so great to me, taking me to the country fair and bowling, always ready to listen to my problems, she explained. Yep, that sounds like Aldo, all right. He's the one who encouraged me to apply to med school at Sperling. Yeah, I start in June. She stood up and started to pace around the room as she talked. "It's really weird to be back at this school. It's the same as when I was here, only different." She examined the decorations on the bulletin board. "Everything seems smaller than I remember." Then she gasped. "Max, I can't believe it, but this is Mrs. Brisbane's class. I had Mrs. Brisbane. She was awesome. She was my favorite teacher." She was staring at a big bunch of cut-out flowers that Mandy had made. It was labeled, "To Mrs. Brisbane." "I can't believe I'm in Mrs. Brisbane's room," she repeated. "She made me believe I could do whatever I set my mind to do, even being a doctor." She listened for a while and then said, "Oh my gosh, I'd better get back to work. I'm only halfway done." Still talking, she strolled over to my cage, reached in her pocket, and pulled out something. I gasped, but then I saw it wasn't a ray gun. It was just a piece of broccoli. "I'm supposed to give the classroom hamster a treat from Uncle Aldo. There's a frog here, too. Uncle Aldo told me to talk to them, but I feel kind of silly doing that. I wish we'd had pets when I was in Mrs. Brisbane's class. Anyway, I've got to run. Talk to you later. Bye." She tapped her ear and stopped talking. Just when I was beginning to think Aldo's niece was smart, she said she'd feel silly talking to us. But other than that, I kind of liked her. I wish I knew her name. Og splashed away. After a while, I decided to eat the broccoli, because Aldo's niece wasn't from outer space after all. Sperling was a place on Earth, not some other planet. And the only reason she was going to perform surgery on humans was because, thank goodness, she was going to become a doctor. Best of all, I knew why Aldo hadn't been coming to clean, and I was pretty sure he'd be coming back soon. Niece. The daughter of your sister or the daughter of your brother. But a niece is always a girl. If Aldo happens to be her uncle, she's not just a niece, she's also nice. Humphrey's Dictionary of Wonderful Words.